Okay, hey, this is Pages Promotions Presents another edition of Indie Authors Gathering live on Zoom. We are doing this as part of a June month-long introduction to indie authors. We're doing a book festival on Facebook, and our goal here is to give you some additional opportunity to reach to authors, ask them questions, have conversations, just like you would around a table at a book festival. It's also a great opportunity for us as authors to get together and kind of talk shop a little bit. So if you're a reader tuning in, this gives you kind of a behind the scenes understanding of the insanity that we call life. And if you're a writer, if you're a reader, it'll give you the opportunity to maybe discover some new books that you hadn't before. So today we are featuring Peggy Christie. Hi, Peggy.
Hello, hello. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Pretty awesome. So Peggy, see, so unprepared me today. This is what happens when you do things in the morning instead of at night. Do you have a copy of your book nearby, The Vessel?
Which one? Of all of them? The ones we were talking about?
The Vessel. Do you have it?
Blah, 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 blah. I do.
See? Yay! So that's The Vessel. That's the book that we are featuring for the book festival. Sure. Nicely done. If you could just give us a quick synopsis of the book.
Quick synopsis. That's a good one.
Yeah, I know. It's an oxymoron, I know, but
I know. I'm not good at elevator pitches. Basically, it's a story about, it's my Chinese energy vampire novel, and it's basically about two different sects of vampires. One uphold the law of the vampire world, the other ones are rogue, they do whatever the heck they want, and there's a human woman that gets caught in the middle of their war due to an ancient prophecy that she is the key to fulfilling. How's that? That was pretty good.
That's spectacular. Yeah, no, that's great. I know the synopsis on the back of the book and the elevator pitch are probably two of the hardest things that we as authors have to endure.
Nerves are impossible. Ugh.
Yeah. So now I know you've written other books, so I'd like you to show us those and tell us a little bit about them as well.
I actually have two other books. They're both short story collections. So my very first one,
there we go.
In screen. Hell Hath No Fury. And the second one, these are both published by Dragon's Roost Press. Thank you, Michael Cieslak.
Great, Michael. Yeah.
Hi. This is my second one. It's called Dark Doorways. And they're both short story collections, no particular theme or anything like that. Just
collections of spookiness.
Right. Uh-oh, here comes Nicole.
Yeah, here comes Nicole. I read Dark Doorways just recently, and
thank you for the review, by the way.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was this was one of those books that I read during blood draw days, book previous to my surgery, and thank you for completely freaking me out. I'm sitting in the waiting room reading. What was the name of the story? The one about HR?
It's called HR?
It was called HR, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm reading this, and it's kind of creepy, you guys, and I'm waiting to get a real live modern day vampire to steal my blood, and I was completely wigged out. It was just, but I couldn't stop. I was wigged out and could not stop reading it simultaneously.
That's awesome.
So I could not.
Every horror writer's like ambition is that. So.
Yeah.
Hi, Nicole.
So, tell us why horror, why that genre, as opposed to, say, Hallmark Harlequin.
Oh my God. You know, I don't think there was ever a choice. I grew up watching, and I hate to say this as a writer, I was never a huge reader until I got to college. But growing up, Detroit had, Sir Graves Ghastly. So every Saturday afternoon, I was in front of the TV watching Creature Feature, growing up on Hammer Films and the Edgar Allan Poe stories and Vincent Price and Peter Cushing and all of that. It was from a very, very young age. So I I don't think I really, in somewhere in my brain or even in my heart, I was just like, this is the only thing I can do. And the only thing I want to do, because it was already such a big part of me. So.
Awesome. I'm noticing a trend so far with the authors that write horror. You guys have all got offices with blood red walls. What's with that?
Well, red's my favorite color, so when it came time to redo, this used to be a bedroom when we first moved in, and we never used it as one, and eventually got to the point where it's like, well, I need to have a workspace, and so it was all mine. And so the walls are red. I actually made like the red curtains, like I just bought made little curtains out of those, and I have extra on the doorknobs and everything. So
Oh my gosh.
black gray trim. It was like my dream room. So I don't know. Red's my favorite color, so that's why I went with it.
You guys are just creepy.
Yeah.
Before we forget, I forgot to do this with Cyrus Keith, the author, last night, but I want to do this before I forget, and then I'll open up the panel for questions. What's the deal with the monkey?
Actually,
Tell us that story, pretty please.
yeah, that was my dad's nickname for me. I don't know why he started calling me Monkey, but that was always his nickname. And I remember the first time my husband had heard it, we had moved back to Michigan. We were living in Illinois for a couple of years, and we moved back, and we had all gone out to dinner, and my dad was like, "Oh, what are you thinking, Monkey?" And my husband starts laughing, and we kind of looked at him like, "What's your problem?" Like, it was the most normal thing for us, and he just thought it was so funny. And so now that my dad's gone, my husband calls me Monkey now. So
Very cool.
yeah, so that's
and your website is The Monkey Is In?
correct. So
monkeyisin.com, right?
sin, depending on how you interpret it.
Say that again.
Some people have come up to me and they've asked, the monkey I sin, what does that mean? And I'm like, why don't you rethink that?
Think in sentence frames.
Yeah.
Any questions for Peggy as we just kick this off?
So are these so scary I can't read before I go to sleep? Or is this something I can read before I go to bed?
Of any of my stuff? Or
Yes.
That's a good question.
Because that's usually what I read.
Right. I might say The Vessel might be a little bit easier, because with short stories, it's like you really have to kind of get to that punch and that scare right away, whereas the novel build it up a little bit. So might be the novel, might be a better bedtime story.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. So
if horror can be considered bedtime story, yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, I can read it. I can't watch it, because watching it, it gives you the visual. When I read it, I can block that part out.
Okay. Yeah.
Still read the story.
Yeah. Once someone's already given it to you, then their image is in your head, and no matter what you do. Yeah.
Right.
With me with The Ring, I couldn't sleep for days after seeing that movie. So
yeah.
And you can ask
okay. I'll put that one on the list of stuff I'm not going to do.
That made me think of a question. So I remember, it was like Bravo. You guys remember, like a few years ago, Bravo had like their top 100 scariest movies of all time or something like that. And they interviewed Rob Zombie. And I remember him talking about the movie Audition and how he wouldn't watch it because it was so scary. And I thought, mental note to self, if Rob Zombie is scared of this movie, don't watch it. Is there anything or any particular subgenre, like torture porn or anything like that, where you're just like, nope, even as a horror writer, nope.
Like that I avoid writing myself, you mean?
Writing or reading, or watching.
As far as writing, I won't kill an animal, no matter what. It's like, I just can't. I mean, I watched Joe Bob Briggs on Shudder, and he just did Cannibal Holocaust. And I watched that film, and it is the cut with the animal killings. I know what they were because I've read up on it. So I watched it like this, and I muted it when I saw the animals coming on. But as far as writing it, I cannot I can kill people and kids. I have no problem with that, but animals cannot do. And as far as reading, I don't think there's anything I've ever may come across for some reason, like Diana, you were saying, it's like I could probably read about an animal killing, then I can kind of block it out. But if I see it on screen, it's like, nope. So at least as far as watching horror too, I can't do animal killings. It's just, people will be like, it's just a dog or it's just a ferret. I'm like, I don't care. I watched, what is it? The rats are coming, the werewolves are here, or the werewolves are coming and the rats are here. I don't remember the title of it. It's from the 70s. And they on screen nailed a mouse to a board. And it was just for shock value. And I didn't know it was coming. And I was traumatized for a week. I could not get that out of my head. So that's pretty much the only thing that's off limits for me.
I did that in the dorms when I lived in the dorms. That was
Yeah. I watched the Harry Potter series with my son sitting next to me like this every time a snake came on the screen. And he was just like, Mom, don't watch this part. And I'd go, okay. So
it's nice when you can have someone to warn you.
Yeah. Well, he read the books before the movies came out so he could warn me. Gotcha. And then reading it seems a little easier because like Diana said, it's like that image isn't already planted in your head. So I can make it be a worm instead of a snake in my head.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But, a snake that's 60 feet long and can rear, 80 feet in the air. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's funny.
Any other questions for Peggy?
Yes,
yep.
Nicole.
Oh, Nicole.
You can tell she's a teacher. She's raising her hand.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. During the pandemic and everything that's been happening in the world, has this caused you to be more creative? Or so is it a catalyst for some of your horror writing? Or have you found you've kind of shut down a little bit, or what's going on?
What's going on, man? I don't think I found any inspiration in it yet. I'm going to say yet to that because I, never say never. I just think it's funny because once the pandemic hit and we were all in quarantine, did you all notice how many movies started popping up in streaming services that are about quarantines and pandemics and all this? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't really need that right now. We're kind of living it. So,
right.
Yeah. So I haven't found necessarily any inspiration in that. I've actually even given myself, if it's like I've gotten any more work done because I've been at home for years now. I've been working from home. So I think it is helping me organize my time a little bit better because now I'm just like, it's given me more of that sense of, well, hey, who knows when this is going to happen again. So let's hurry up and just get our stuff, get our poop in a group in other words. But so other project I've been working on are starting to coalesce a little bit better. And, I'm trying to keep on top of submitting stuff, but I don't know if it's necessarily increased my workload or my inspiration or anything like that.
So let's segue into that. What are you working on now, and when can we maybe possibly expect to see another book from you?
I actually I've submitted a novel I had edited last year, but it was one of those, I don't know how big the publishing house is. It's the Tom Doherty Associates, and it's like you send it in, and if you don't hear in 6 months, it could have gotten lost, so try again. It's now coming up on the year mark, so I'm like, well, I haven't heard anything, so we're going to have to look into that. So hopefully within the next couple of years, that'll somewhere get published. I know I have something in the queue at Source Point Press. It's a reprint from the very first novella I ever did, Afraid of the Dark, and an illustrated novelette that a friend of mine, Don England, and I are working on. We're now starting to get our Kickstarter tiers organized. So it's like I've been bugging Michael because he's done a couple of these. It's like, okay, what do we need to do? What are the things we need to get lined up, and what should we be prepared for? So we're getting to that point, and it's actually, I'm really excited because it's And I swear to God, we haven't done this as a plague doctor thing, and it had nothing to do with the pandemic. We've been actually working on this for a couple of years, but he's doing the illustrations and I wrote the story, and it's going to be more of like a young adult kind of POV, which I've never done before. So our main characters are going to be young. It's like Angela, yeah. Like in our first book, it's like a 12-year-old boy is the main character. So that's kind of a nice way to push myself in a different direction. But it's still horror, but it's in a way you write it, you kind of have to dial it back a little bit because these are children speaking about. So
yeah, exactly.
You know, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
You know, one of the books that you left out is the zombie cowboy. I forget.
Yeah. You know, hang on one second.
Do you have it nearby? Because I've got it on my shelf.
Yeah,
yay, there it is.
A Fistful of Dead Folk.
That's the one, yeah.
I know David Hayes, who's the co-writer on there, he wants to do a different size format of it. So this is like the only copy I have, and that's probably even out there. But it's kind of along the same idea. So, you know, you've got illustrations and text. So it's going to be like this, the one that Don and I are working on, probably about the same, you know, thickness too. So it's like a longer short story kind of idea.
Novella, novelette kind of thing.
Yeah, an illustrated novelette. That's exactly what it is. So
excellent.
It was really fun, actually.
Yeah, that was a fun read. I don't know why I want to block the title of it every single time. For some reason, the title is really hard for me to remember, but the content is really easy.
Yeah, Zombie Western Man. It's kind of hard to go.
Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead, Nicole.
Hearing about that. I teach middle school was why I was like, yay. But that size of book is in such demand because some of my more reluctant readers, this type of story just draws them in, and even a few graphics makes it more comfortable for them. And I have one book, I regret that I can't remember the title right now, but it was from one of our book events that I got it, but it was not written for a young adult audience, and I had to just slice out one page. I mean, it was too brutal. I just couldn't have it in my class with my 13, 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Every kid who read the book, though, read so carefully that they knew that page was gone. And I love that. I'm like, they totally were so into it. So I love that you have that coming. I will watch for that.
And I think that, you know, the shorter format isn't as intimidating as a thick book, and having like the graphics or some artwork. And like in our story, it's taking place during World War II. So it's in a concentration camp. So it's already crap. You know, it's already heavy and very heavy. So then to have the child as the, you know, protagonist, it's like, okay, well, let's not do any like on screen murders. We'll just kind of have that happen over there. And that's kind of a way to redo your writing if you're used to doing more adult stuff. So it's a nice challenge too. So I'm kind of glad.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, doing the violence off stage, so to speak, has got to be a challenge for you when you're used to writing for an adult audience. So that I'll be really interested to see how, you know, I'd like to have you back in for another conversation after that book's finished. Maybe come back to the TV studio when we're open again and talk about that, because that's a really cool craft kind of thing that I'd like to investigate with you.
And it's definitely a challenge if you're not used to it. Because I remember I would write a scene and then I would kind of check with Don. I'm like, do you think this is a little too much? Because he has kids. So I'm like, do you think this is a little too much? He's like, yeah. Elsewhere.
Nicole, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm just curious, why wouldn't it be called a graphic novel?
I think a graphic novel, when I think of a graphic novel, is more like The Sandman, which is it's just a comic. Not really, because it's like every page has artwork. Every page is broken up into those cells and boxes and all of that stuff. It still can tell the same story, but I think it's a lot more artwork and that kind of thing. It looks like more like a comic book, whereas opposed to this has more actual, like, you know, this has more printed words.
Okay.
Yeah, more pages of full text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be the main difference.
Oh, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning something.
Yeah, and it's actually probably, if you've ever written a comic script, those are a pain in the butt. This, it's like I can just write it as a story and then format it to fit the artwork as opposed to doing a script. Like for everything.
Yeah, and fitting the text in those little tiny thought bubbles.
I'm glad I'm not an inker, so that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other comments, inquiries? No? Okay, we are about 30 minutes in, so Peggy, you and I didn't get a chance to talk about this before, and I hate to like stick you on the spot, but do you have a promotion or anything going on during this month?
Right now, I do not. I haven't organized myself enough to this. Yeah. I didn't do anything. I mean, there's links to everything is still available to get, except maybe the Fistful of Dead Folk because of the reformatting. But everything else that I have, there are links on my website you can access. It's there's also, I actually am in a comic anthology, but there's a link to that on my website as well, which I didn't talk about here because I only have one story in that, but that's from SourcePoint. And but you can always go to my website and find information that you need.
Awesome. And again, the website is
themonkeyisin.com.
Perfect. And then I guess the other question I do this over and over again, and I'm redundant, and I understand that I'm redundant, but I'm constantly curious to get the answers to these two questions from authors. Pantser or plotter, digital or analog?
Pantser, analog.
Really, you do your stuff longhand?
I do. Most of the time I do. I'll have notebooks or a pad of paper or something because it's usually when I'm not sitting at my computer that I'm like, I want to work on something because unless I'm editing something that I've already typed or it's just, I'm sitting in my office already and something comes to me. Most of the time I'm not at my computer, but I always have a notebook nearby. So, and I don't plot. I'll write down notes of stuff like, well, I want to cover this in the story, or I want to make sure this happens. But even then, there's no guarantee that that's going to end up in a story because it changes 20 times by the time you get
Sure.
So yeah.
Strangest place you've ever written?
I don't know if I have strange places that I
You write in perfectly normal places?
I don't go to strange places. God, I can't even. It's probably like being at a restaurant with like my in-laws and something hits me. And I'm like, excuse me, I got to get my notebook. And then it's like, I don't know what we're talking about and I don't care. I got to go do this. So that might be the strangest thing I've ever done in regards to writing. But I don't know.
And then how does the family respond when you do that?
I think they just laugh. They're like, okay, whatever. As long as my mother-in-law has happy hour with me, I'm fine. I don't care.
Yeah. Happy hour mother-in-law. That's an interesting combination. Okay.
You know, when we still went to Florida, because they winter down there, there's a place that we go to at least once, and they usually have like, the 2-for-1 drink. She'll come with me and she'll have the one and we'll share it. It's so funny. I'm just like, I don't know how I lucked out in the mother-in-law and in-law department, but I did. I really did.
So, Michael, since we've got you in this room,
unmute yourself, Michael.
Yeah, unmute yourself, Michael. So I have a curious question about that readers might be interested in. Again, this is that backstage view. You two work together as writers in the same tribe, so to speak, because you guys both work for GLA, along with Nicole. She's in GLA as well. But the two of you also work together as publisher, editor, author, that kind of relationship. Michael, I'd like to hear a little bit from you about what that experience is like working with Peggy.
It's super easy, actually. There are times when you get material from someone who requires a lot of editing and rewriting, and I'm very fortunate in that most of the authors that I've published are not in that category. Just absolutely a dream.
Yay!
Takes direction well.
likes you. He really likes you.
It's
Right
actually
now, he really likes me.
it's a super benefit for the press too, because she brings in her own fan base. So there are times when we've had different conventions in the area, and it's like, okay, and we will be featuring Peggy Christie, which means she's going to be at the table, so I can go to the bathroom every once in a while. But then people are coming to see her, which is always a benefit financially as well.
Awesome. Peggy, I'd like to hear a little bit more about GLAW. Can you talk about them for us, for those watching that may not know who they are and what they do?
Sure. Yeah, we're a group of mostly horror and dark fiction writers, but we also have horror artists, photographers, people who just like reading and watching horror. We're in our 13th year, right, Michael? You'd think I'd remember this, but we're in our 13th year right now, and we have a few publications we put out every year. One is the Eerie Tales anthology, which is just for members. And now we also have Ghostlight, which is like our magazine, and a Recurring Nightmares, which is more like a chapbook, because it usually has 5 or 6 short stories. Those two are both open to the public. So if anybody knows anyone who likes to write, please go to the GLAW website, glahw.com. There's always information on our submission periods for that. Recurring Nightmares is actually fun. We have a Halloween fundraiser every year, and our one member, Ken, came up with the idea for an auction item that if you bid on it and you win, your name is in every story in that. So the first one was Amanda. Was it Amanda and then Edwina? And then we had Nicole had one, David and Peggy, and Ruth. So it's like you are the monster, the villain, the victim, the hero, whatever we want to do with your name. So that's a lot of fun, and that does get quite a bit of interest, which is a lot of fun. And then GLAW, when the world reopens, obviously, we like to do a lot of different conventions to get out there and meet with people. It'll be nice when we can get back out and kind of network again, because that's a good way for us to get out and meet everybody else who maybe doesn't know who we are or hadn't heard of us or whatever. So
absolutely. So GLAW, can you give us the expanded acronym?
It's Great Association of Horror Writers.
Okay. And I'm guessing the website is
glahw.com. Easier to type that than Great Lakes Association.
Yeah. I always get the H and the W confused. So
a lot of people do.
I have to reach for the book and look at the back and look at the logo on the back and go, okay, who are they again? How do I find them? So,
right.
Anybody else have anything else to ask, contribute, inquiry?
Did I get a signed copy from your website?
You know what? If I think there's a link to my email on there. Go ahead and email me,
Okay.
and I'll hook you up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Xander, you have any ideas, questions?
I actually have no questions. I'm interested in the GLAW stuff. I'm going to look that up. But
See, there you go.
Awesome.
because I write dark fiction, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not always just strict horror, because I know it's not. Everyone's like, I do like a mishmash. I do sci-fi and horror. I do fantasy and horror. So it's anything that's dark.
I'm a huge mashup. My series, the one I'm working on right now, is a kind of a combination between adventure, horror, suspense, thriller, cyberpunk, paranormal, you name it. Every book in the series is a slightly different genre from the other, so that it's always something interesting, always twisting, always turning.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, look us up, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to get all 30, I keep telling everybody I have this thing I want to write on one book in all 35 genres, but that's a great way to do it. I hadn't thought about actually making them series.
Someone's telling me.
It sounds like a really overwhelming prospect, but yeah, we'll talk about that, but wow.
Yeah. They're 20 books too. This is a 20-book series that I'm working on. I've only so far I've published the first one, and the second one is in beta read, so I'm looking forward to talking about that when it's my time.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that when we do your Zoom gathering. That's going to be awesome. Anybody else? Questions, concerns? I know you guys are in the middle of your day and you probably have work days, so I don't want to keep you any longer than we need to, but I also don't want to cut anybody off. So if you have any ticklers going on in your brain you'd like to poke at Peggy about, this is the time.
Wait. Oh, sorry.
No?
Cool.
Okay then. Peggy can be found at themonkeyisin.com. She's also on Facebook. Check her out there. On our Facebook page, the 2020 virtual book festival, we are putting up the covers for everybody's books and bios and links to websites and all that kind of fun stuff. There's a reading that we're going to be posting that Peggy did later this afternoon, so we'll put that up. So, yeah, you sent me that. I know. Put that up today. So we'll put that up later today so that you can get a little taste of her reading. And, you know, we look forward to having more people come back. Thanks, everybody, for coming out, and we'll see you tomorrow where we're doing another one of these fun things with readers. So thanks, everybody.
All right, cool. Bye. Thanks, guys.